In prep for this interview,
Mm,
you mentioned that you've been doing some deeper study on a few topics that I'd love to dig into. The
yeah.
first of these is the danger of sedentary behaviors, even if you work out regularly.
Yeah.
So, what have you discovered about this, and what do fit pros need to know to help their clients or possibly even themselves to
Yeah.
increase their movement quotient?
I like that movement quotient. I started focusing on this when I was writing a course, type 2 diabetes fitness specialist course. And I'm going in and trying to identify what are some of the complications, what are the correlations, how do things connect with type 2 diabetes. And so I rabbit holed into sedentary behaviors. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. And the you got to be kidding me was the fact that you can exercise, you can do exercise and still be sedentary.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you do that 1 hour workout in the morning and maybe you do it 2 to 3 times a week, right? So that's putting up pretty good numbers when we talk about doing the 150 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity a week. And yet, we find that independent of so many factors, independent of whether or not you are obese. So if you control for obesity, then you can look at it and say it's actually the people who are more sedentary, regardless of obesity status, that have more chronic disease.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're shaking our fingers, oh, obesity, and then I feel like we're fat blaming and obese blaming, and people get really upset about it, and they should, because that's really tears at people. And yet the stronger correlation to chronic disease is how much you sit on your backside or lie on your back, not how much fat you have on your body.
Mm-hmm.
But the inverse of that, like you can be skinny and sedentary and you have heightened pathologies. You're going to
Right.
get sicker more often, but more it's the chronic disease, heart disease, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, cancers that are all associated with sedentary behaviors. And then you link that back to, well, I work out 3 days a week. I do my high intensity exercise class. And though there are some really, really stellar benefits, if you control for the people who are still exercising, that are finding a way to sit down the other 23 hours in the day, they actually have increased propensity. So that's the ratio of how many people that you control for have the diseases versus don't have the disease, and the disease ratio is much higher in the people who exercise but are sedentary throughout the remainder part of the day. So, with that being said, like, what's the takeaway here? And I think the biggest takeaway is get up and move. And the movement, Sandy, isn't, oh, you have to run again or you have to exercise again. It's not sitting down and not reclining. Minimizing how much you sit and minimizing how much you recline. So even getting up and going to the bathroom, which is why I tell people to drink water. Sometimes, yes, I'm all about hydration, but I'm really about you getting up and going to the bathroom every half hour. So that
Right.
gets you out of your office chair. It gets you moving. And it's just the little things. And I've learned through time that the little things, even though they add up, many people don't do them because they don't think it's enough. And the truth of the matter is, and I always say this, a little bit of something's better than a whole lot of nothing. And it's those little bit of somethings that add up exponentially more. The amount of movement that you do through the day is far more valuable than the amount of workout that you do for that 30 minutes or that full hour.
Mm-hmm.
And we look at caloric expenditure. How much goes to your basal metabolic rate? More than half. How much goes to exercise if you do it every day? A fraction. How much goes to the amount of movement that you do throughout the rest of the day that's not exercise? And it is the significant part of your day. So the more just kind of getting up and moving, the better off you'll be.
Yeah, absolutely. From a personal standpoint, I'm going to say that when from self discovery and having gotten my first tracker probably 6 years ago, and
Oh
just
yeah.
paying attention to the data. Anyone who knows me knows, number one, that I do not miss my morning workout. I go religiously
Yeah.
every morning. I
Good.
love it. I love to train. I love everything about it. Love my group. But
Good.
as I started tracking, I discovered that that was the only movement I was getting all day, my 45 minutes
Ooh.
to 1 hour in the morning. And the rest of it was pretty insignificant. And so I started, parking halfway to the gym and walking to and from, or just building in new little things to do. But I mean, for me, I
Good
think
for you.
having the data in front of me
Yeah.
was really important for me to see. It was a reality check for me to say, hey, you're not doing anything the other 23 hours of the day. And so how do you think these tools or data or wearables, whatever, can prompt or help with behavior mod in ourselves or for coaching it in our clients? I mean, how can we better harness fit tech for these
I think
changes?
that's a great question. For so many people I know, when I have an Apple Watch, and every once in a while it tells me to stand up, and I'm like, stop it already. Right? Like it can be annoying when it tells you to do things, but at the same time it is a reminder. And I think that your fit tech is valuable. And a lot of these, I mean, a lot of the studies that we find are coming from fit tech to give us a better idea of what movement is like, and the discrepancy between what we think and what we can actually provide empirical data for. And they're not the same thing. So we have this perception of self, and our perception of self is usually a bit more glossy than what the reality is.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we have a data tracker, then it gives us a better and maybe a truer insight. They're not 100% correct, but it like gives you a better idea of what's going on in your movement, your daily movement. And I think that that's really important for us. And the data we've pulled from sedentary behaviors is the reason so many of these companies have emerged with standing desks and the desk treadmill and things like that. It's because of the data that we've pulled. So I'm happy to pull data. I think it can be very helpful, but it can also infringe on your peace of mind. So don't get too caught up in the data. Just, you have your morning routine, just add in a few more routines. All right, here's my before lunch routine where I get up and I go do this, and I walk the dog at this, and I get like whatever it is, but have your little micro routines throughout the day, as well as and while still keeping that nice big morning workout
Mm-hmm.
and social time that you have as well.
Great advice. Just keep it simple. Don't let the data overwhelm you, but do pay
Yeah,
attention, right?
I think so.